we're looking at one of those dramatic instances. You can pick out the Old Testament, where we can get a great understanding of the ways by which God operates by a human. And a human is God in action. And as the human moves out with as God in action, these miraculous things happen, which happen today in their different forms. And this is a very dramatic and startling one, and stands out by itself in just 2 or 3 chapters. That is the main instance of the life of Gideon, who went on to be one of the judges of Israel for 40 years, the days before they had kings. It's to be found in the 6th chapter of Judges onwards. The condition in which this happened were the typical condition that God always said, what you sow you reap. And right away from Moses' time on, when he said to them, if you attach yourself to me, I'm the living God, and that you have a faith in the living God, and I'm a God who does things, will work for you, and that will put a quality into you, that you know how to do things and work for you, well, like Israel today, and you put it through. But if you turn from me, you're really turning on your own self. Your false gods are merely kind of a self-image of the kind of person you want to be, a fleshly, self-gratifying, self-seeking person. You make a god like that. Well, there's no conviction in that. It's just yourself. You know in your heart that isn't a living God at all. So you've got no strength to your faith, which puts muscles into your operations. And so you sink under them. And when the people you oppose, you adopted their false gods, and you've got no foot, they don't stand upon. They're stronger than you. They'll eat you up. So as I warn you, if you exchange me for one of these heathen gods, down you go with them. They'll destroy you, and it'll be good you'll be destroyed. That's how you learn you're going on this way. That's always the history of Israel. It's really the history of all self. Unredeemed self, of course, in its different forms, but here it takes a national form. And in this case, they slipped into Baal worship. You think of this day of almost inconceivable, and all the corruption and horrors that set around Baal. Jezebel was the prophetess of Baal. And as a consequence, they lost their spiritual muscle, and no faith to operate, and these surrounding people, the Midianites, ate them up. They were very populous people. They said they were like grasshoppers of multitude. And they so oppressed Israel for 7 years that they went hidden dead in the caves. They ran out of their homes and hide. And then, or to make it worse, the Midianites would come at harvest time and burn all their harvests. So they'd starve them. And so they were terrified and hidden away. There wasn't a weapon among them. And they were in this condition. Now, they did know God. These were not sinners of the Gentiles, we say. They were God's people, so they knew how to cry to God. And so we read, after 7 years, they were crying to God. Well, that's the first step. They were turning back. That was their idolatry. They hadn't cleaned it up yet. But midst of all, saying, God, where are you? Help us somewhere. So that was a very condition for God to begin to move in among them. Now, there was one young man in whose heart obviously this was a real cry and a real argument. What's up? Therefore, he had a basic faith. If God was the kind of God that took us out of Egypt, why didn't he work today? Is he dead? You begin to criticize God and resent God and judge God. This was this man Gideon. There had also been, during this time, which evidently had a profound action of Gideon, a prophet. We're not giving his name. These are bold men. These are great men. They speak things out, and of course very often they were tortured and destroyed for doing so. They spoke the truth. And he came out and said, you've got what you deserved. He spoke to Israel. He came out, Lord said the prophet. He said, I told you. I got you out of Egypt, didn't I? I told you, if you detach yourself from the living God and take on these false gods which are only mirages, and you're really back on your own self-loving self, you'll collapse. So he didn't give them a remedy. He says, you've not obeyed my voice. In other words, he pinpointed the reason why they were in this appalling condition as they trampled under by these Midianite hosts. That must have hit Gideon. And so the day came when God knows a conditioned heart. Any heart can be conditioned. And we are in our different ways conditioned hearts when God begins to speak to us. And this came in the form of an angel appeared. Whether that was probably a visionary one, we don't know, or whether in some sense he came in those days in actual physical form, it doesn't matter to us. And this man came, Gideon was in the final condition of terror. He tended to preserve a harvest, so he threshed his wheat in the winepress, hidden away in the winepress, and it wasn't wheat at all. He was preserving his daily bread in that means. So he was hidden away in the winepress. And this the angel of the Lord spoke to him and said a startling word, too much for him to take at the moment. He just said to him, "The Lord is with you, thou mighty man of valor." That's what we are. But we have to walk to a place to recognize why we are mighty, and we are mighty. We are mighty. This is what we've got to relearn. This is the person who found the secret of power, and I am mighty. I can do all things. This was a little too much for Gideon in the moment, but it startled him. Straight away, the Lord is with thee. That's the reason why you're mighty. You're mighty as a consequence. Well, Gideon reacted because he was an honest man. He couldn't say at the moment. He turned around, but he did show he was in the controversy of God. If that's so, why didn't you rescue us? He turned back on him. He says, if the Lord did all these miracles, where are the miracles today? He says, you say if the Lord's with us. He didn't say with me. He didn't get that far. He answered the angel, oh my Lord, if the Lord be with us, why is this before us? Where are the miracles? So he was in the rightful controversy with God. Because he didn't have the controversy really with God with him. But he turned around the other way around. But this day he was a conditioned person, alive, with this battle of argument going on between himself, this controversy with God. The angel never deals with reasons, he deals with faith. God doesn't deal with reasons, and he bypassed it. God didn't attempt to answer, he turned right back and said more this time. He said, go in this thy might, and thou shalt save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Oh. He said, the Lord is with you, you're a mighty man of valor. He bypassed that and turned to us and said, I can't take that out. Why has the Lord left us? And the angel disregarded the us and come back to you. Because that's all we ever have is ourselves. God only operates you by you, me by me. Maybe we could be cooperative. But we never get through this thing except as we are the person by whom God uses. Each of us are the we, the I, whom God uses. We've got to get back there, then it comes to us. It may cooperate with others, but that's the main point. That's where God comes in effectiveness through humans. And so he put him back off this reasoning and arguing, said this strong point. But is it very interesting in saying that? It says this: the Lord looked upon him. Verse 14. As it go in this thy might, and thou shalt save Israel. Looked upon him, thy caught his eye. Now that meant the Lord is the angel of the Lord. We see later on the Lord talked inside Gideon, but I presume this still came through the angel, I suppose, I'm not sure. He caught an eye. I'm talking to you. And I'm saying it to you, not caught him. He was conditioned. He first tried to escape. Well, you do. But he didn't really escape, because he'd been arguing with God. He was the one man who was bothered about this. And so he was conditioned, because they're now talking to you. That's what comes next step. I have said something to you. And he said this to Gideon, and Gideon began to take it. He said, I say to you, I look upon you, and I say to you, go in this your might, and you will save Israel. That's the Midianites. This one man hidden away in the winepress. And the Midianites like grasshoppers are multitude, armed and all the rest of it. Have not I sent you? Now we get a little further, and Gideon did take it. But then he began to ask, how could it be? Just the same as Moses. When he turned up to Moses, burning bush, he said, come now, I'll send you. Oh, Moses said, okay, but how can I do it? They won't listen to me. They've already rejected me once. And, how can I prove that you spoke to me? I haven't got any voice, and I'm a poor speaker and stuff. All right, that's good. That's human argument. It's negative, positive, settles the positive. You must have the negatives out and then settle and get replaced by the positive. So, as Moses was like that, so Gideon, wait a minute. He says, well, if people are just an insignificant family in Manasseh, it was the time of Manasseh. Well, insignificant, as I'm the least significant in my father's house, I'm the least in my father's house. So there's nothing which had to be, because I think you look on either in my family or me, which means you can say, I can say this was laughable from the hands of the Midianites. Then still he stuck to the one man. You've got to get it. No, Gideon, I'm not taking about that. Again, no answer on this family being too poor or being significant. Back he came to himself, from reason to faith, and said, surely I will be with thee, and thou shalt smite me as one man, a vast host. No, it's you and they're going to be one man. I'm going to do it by you. I don't know how you do it. I'm going to reduce that host to one man, as it were. And you're going to try to knock the whole host out in one blow. That's something. You're the man. It's going to happen by you, and something's going to happen by you which will put the whole Midianite army out of action. That's something. We're catching more and more, and we have to do it. I'm the one, God said, it's got to come through me. Others may be in and out of it, but that's for myself, each of us, and when we see it, have it in our goodness. That's through me. And so he kept nailing down, it's through you, Gideon, you're the man, because the Lord's with you, because the Lord sent you, but you're the man. Finally got him. He forgot him. And so now, Gideon turns around and says, well, I better have a sign on that, angel, Lord, I'm going to sign this, it's ridiculous. But you begin to get it. There's something here, I'm to be your man. Well, I can't do it unless you make me short of it. You better give me a sign. And so he built up his sign. He said, look here, I don't know what he intends to do with it. He said, I'm going to make a meal. A kind of sacrifice, I suppose. And he says, will you wait here? I'll go and bring forth my present, he called it, my present. And the angel said, all right, I'll wait. And he went in and he made roasted a kid and got some unleavened, took it, little time I suppose, flesh and so on, brought it in a basket, put it under the oak where this angel was there. The angel said to him, take it now, put it on this rock and pour out the broth as a kind of sacrifice, I suppose. And then what happened, this was a miracle, because we thought that we said that fire came out, burned it up. That's all right. I mean, God has his own ways of confirming to us. We just say that's the way it happened then, that we also can have confirmations. And then the angel disappeared. And that confirmed to Gideon that had been God spoken to him. But now Gideon had to move into a place of familiarity with God. So he only had to all the flesh always says God's awful, his judgment, his wrath, and dangerous, and I'm afraid of him. If I meet him face to face, I die. All that sort of flesh idea of God that came through law without grace, didn't know grace. So you've got to pass from law to grace. And so Gideon's reaction, he says, I shall die. I've seen God face to face. And this is the first time it says that God spoke to, not the angel of God now, and disappeared. This was the Lord in him. Now we begin our life, where the Lord in Gideon was saying this to him. And it says, the Lord said to him, peace be unto thee, you will not die. But this meant to Gideon, he's accepted because he then produced a new name, which is used today, Shalom. This came in here. And Gideon built an altar, and he called it Jehovah Shalom, which is peace. It's the word, of course, we use today of the Jews. Peace. That came out of his. Peace meant, it's okay. Then I didn't be afraid of God. God and I have a relationship. We're in with each other. We have an in now. In what we call you in those terms, that he could be in good terms with God now. And this fear stuff and distant stuff had gone, and he entered into what we call a union with God. Now, it's always a relaxed life. He got it now. Something happened. What could happen? This fantastic situation. What could happen? Now you don't push this life, because of course it's God's the pusher. He's in you. So we don't know. We don't have to push it. We just find the next thing happens. And in this case, the next thing happened was, that same night, again the Lord spoke to him, and touched him on the spot. He said, look here, Gideon, you can't be my mighty man, and I'll do things by you while you're a co-idolater on your own township, the Ebezer, the little township. They have an idol to Baal. They have they live on hills, they have a temple to Baal in their very, it's supposed to be godly people. You can't let that stand. And you ought to go at night, you ought to go and destroy that thing. Now you see, now we get it again, in this life there is a death. There's a death which you die, that's the other, when you die in yourself, crucified with Christ, and also death in ministry. Now we didn't make it up, but there is, you always find somewhere, there's somewhere, I know it in my own life, where you take a step, which puts you out a step with maybe in the world, even with your fellow Christians, something. You're going to do something which has a danger in it. You're risking something. You'll find that goes all the way through the Bible, like Abraham had to sacrifice Isaac and be delivered, and had to cross the way. All these things, there are risks in them. So that there is, so we don't make it up, but you'll find as we follow, there's something which push you differently. It's something which makes you a peculiar person. And this, of course, risked his life. He knew it. And he used sense. You can use sense. He took 10 men, so he had some, servants. They must be quite wealthy people. They said they were poor. They had 10 servants. And these men, either willingly or because they respected Gideon or something, went with him at night. Now, he said he like all men, he had a fear. He was a man of fear, because the faith comes out of fear. Faith is the conquest of fear. Because fear is negative believing. Faith is positive believing. Fear always means I believe in evil thing. That paralyzes me. It's to say, fear is faith. It's really faith in reverse. So all men fear. Why do you believe negative? Fear. Turn round and turn into faith, because now what you're believing is God. So it's only a reverse. Fear is just faith in reverse, or faith is fear in reverse, whichever way you like it. And he feared. But he did sensibly. I suppose he knew he couldn't do it by daylight, do it by night. And he said, because he feared them, he said he took of them, as the Lord said to him, because he feared the household, he could not do it by day, day by night. It was a sensible caution, but he was fulfilling his commission. And he destroyed this thing, and built an altar to the Lord. Now, here you get the next stage of, who could tell? You can't tell. When we follow the Lord, we can't tell in what way the deliverance will come. Because he did face the fact they were sure kill him next day. If he destroyed their one, it was the center of their worship. And so when they found next day that their temple had been destroyed and an altar had been raised to God, these men said, who did this? And they found that Gideon, the son of Joash, did it. They said, dig him up, we'll kill him. Bring out thy son, called to Joash, that he may die. Because he's cast down the altar of Baal and cut down the groves by it. Now this miracle happened. Of course, these men were underneath men of God. We see later on, the whole Ebezer went for he turned the whole town turned round. Because the roots was there. But it came out this time in this very bold statement, a very wonderful statement, with wisdom in it from Joash. Evidently, Joash had a conviction that he allowed this idolatry to take place, and he saw his son. Maybe his son already said things to him, I don't know. His son was being led of God and was speaking in the power of God and operating in the faithfulness of God. He rose up, and he said a very clever thing. He said, okay, he said, if my son has destroyed the temple of Baal and says in the name of the Lord, if Baal's the real God, let him come back and pay his own bribe. Let him take vengeance. Let us see Baal do something to Gideon. Don't you do anything. Let's see Baal do it. Very much the same as Elijah. Elijah said to the prophet of Baal, call on him. If he's real, let him come and send fire. Much the same idea. And that so shook and probably it got at the underneath conviction of the angry Israelites that they didn't touch neither Joash nor Gideon. They did nothing. And I think they began to know where truth lay. The effect of this was that, you see, again, God does start letting things by you. It's costly. You don't make it up. It's because God calls you to do it. You move into something. Perhaps in our own way we may say, in the typical way, like God, they build up and start union life. And little things, something startling, which makes something come known. And this did a very startling thing. It ran around. And this city, with this family in the city, had destroyed Baal, built and turned him out and put God back. It ran like lightning. But it not only ran like lightning through Israel, or at least the northern part, this was the northern part of Israel, it ran like the Midianites. And they heard, it shook them, that Israel rising up, so they were going to defy this Baal and stand in the name of the Lord. So the next thing that happened was that they called the army. Whatever you do when you call the army together, forget the name. Call the army together. And it says, verse 33, all the Amalekites, the Midianites and the Amalekites, they were the old enemies. And the children of the east, the whole lot, were gathered together with over 135,000 of them. We'll get the number a little later on. And they were pitched in a certain valley for war. They were going to come back again and reaffirm their enslavement of Israel. And now you get this wonderful statement. It says, the Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon. Verse 34. The exact translation is, he clothed himself with Gideon. That's a beautiful expression, because that's exactly what we are. The Spirit of the Lord is clothing us in Gideon. That's exactly what it is. We're the clothing of the Spirit of the Lord. And in a specific way now, he clothed himself with Gideon. He was a spirit operating by Gideon. So there's no other place in the Bible where that phrase is used. In my translation it says the Spirit of the Lord came on Gideon, but the margin is that he clothed himself with Gideon. This now moved Gideon. He had to come into action, get forced. He saw it now. He had this word which he accepted, that he was to smite the army as one man. And he was the man who had the power to do it. We better get on with it now. So get to the place where the Spirit forces you into action. First it is local action, cleaning things up in their own situation. And we see here, as he called the people together, the whole, every Israelite people came with him. So he won the whole town. He blew a trumpet, which was the way they did things in those days. It must have been some way in which they conveyed, like Africa, we did by the hollow drums, and the drum would call village to village to village to village. You pass the message by the drums. Here I did by some way, I suppose one trumpeter went to another trumpeter and so on, to Israel, calling the people to action. And he called the people of Manasseh, his own tribe, and Asher and Zebulun and Naphtali. If you look at the map, they were the northern tribes, which is the northern area of Israel. They were gathered together with him. I've forgotten that where it says that when the Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon, the Abiezrites were gathered with him, his own city. So they stood right with him now. And then with him came the large number of the other tribes, up to 32,000. A big number, but that was 135,000. Some difference. And as far as we know, they hadn't one weapon among them. They'd hidden carry, they got one weapon among them. The others were armed. Well, hopeless situation. Now then, Gideon, he was a released and detached man. He went cautiously in the place where he should go cautiously. He still felt at this side he needed, and this distance he needed another sign. At this juncture, he had another sign. That's famous. That's the sign of the fleece. Christians use all the put out a fleece. Now I don't know why he did it, except in his mind he evidently wants something which conveyed the God particularly with him. apparently that's what he did. So he put it out 2 ways round or some way. The first way, he said, I'll put it there, meaning you can do it. There is a place we can do it, many of you have done it, maybe. All right, you can do it. We're humans, and in situations that perhaps it pleases God that we should move in and to confirm ourselves with signs. That's not wrong. And the sign he asked was, I'll do a thing which again impossible. I'll put out a fleece, lay a fleece on the ground. And I say to you, God, if tomorrow morning there's no dew on the ground around, and the fleece is full of dew, I'll know that you're with me. And it happened. And he even then wasn't quite strong enough, so he reversed it. He said, I'll do it once more. That's all right. God loves us to push things through, and we're his servants and get our confirmation. That's all right. And he said, I hope you won't be annoyed with me. He said, let not the anger be hot against me. I'll reverse it, he said. This time, let the fleece be dry and round him with dew. And it was so. And God did so that night. It was dry upon the fleece only. There was dew on all the ground. So that was to Joshua, to Gideon, a confirmation that in a unique way God was with him. He was expressing God. The others hadn't got God. That's the idea, I suppose, of the dew and no dew, and in the other case dew and no and dry. In each case, he was a peculiar person, and things happened to him which didn't happen to the others, and he therefore was a peculiar person, and God would do it. Well, that's a good confirmation. So now they move in, and he gathers his army together, a bunch of farmers. He'd come out of their holes and caves. We've seen them as far as we know, not a weapon among them. 30,000 of them, 32,000 of them, and they're up in the hills here, and this vast army of 135,000 like camels all lay in some big valley. And here the Israelites with Gideon were overlooking this crowd in the valley. Now God again. Very significantly. In some ways, in which it must be confirmed that what God did, and not by the powers of man. And also, I suppose, it works out that way, that in a number like that, you would have camp followers who come along with you, haven't got the same quality of faith you. How could they have the same quality of faith as Gideon? Somebody said they go with him, but they have doubters. Is it sense? What on earth can we be destroyed? So they follow and said, you, all right, we follow, we're called, we follow, but we can't say we're really in this thing. And maybe it was that Gideon could discern that. And maybe Gideon, God's word, Gideon, he must have people who really mean business. But we're going to have business. We have people to be bold and risk their lives as you're risking your life. We can't just hang us on. And if there are hangers on, something happened, they take all the credit and hang us on, and we all did it. So this guidance came through Gideon's common sense, where the Lord said, make a division, and be quite free, and say to the people, now look here, this is a big thing, and you join me. Now you may not all quite feel as I do, that God's going to do this thing. I presume he said to himself, someone or other is going to do it. But you can't see that. And it's better you go home unless you really feel you can be so involved with this that you can take this risk of faith with us. Somehow God will put us through. So he said, if you were afraid, okay, go home. And he said, whosoever is fearful and afraid, chapter 7, verse 3, let him return and depart early from Mount Gilead, and they returned to 22,000, and remained 10,000. Of course, remember, Gideon had it fixed now. Somehow God's going to do it. Gideon was a man of faith. His faith had to be confirmed every now and then, but basically he wasn't failing. But I had any idea. There's no evidence he had any idea how it happened. Or like usually, almost like one of these God huge jokes. You couldn't see it. And there's no evidence he couldn't see it. He only goes step by step, but he had the confidence. Something God is in this thing. So now he had 10,000. That's a considerable number, not much against 135,000. And then again it came to him in this sense. I think again he could see it. You're going to be called something which they must go into action and therefore risk their lives. Not just passively be in this thing, but be ready to jump into the action, be ready for action. There's something God's going to do by us in action. So it's called, God led them to a further step, very practical, simple testing step. They were on the march apparently, hadn't got there, apparently, or anyhow there wasn't water or something. They're thirsty. They came to, this crowd of 10,000 came to some kind of stream. And he said, now I'm going to test it for you. He said, you watch. He said, those who are not all that set on getting the thing they prize, they're with you. They won't be thinking of getting into it. They'll be thinking at the moment they're thirsty. So they'll get down and have a good old drink. They lie down, put their mouths in the stream and get a good old drink. But they're thinking more about their own sustenance than they are, I'm on the go to put this in for God. Some among you are thinking about their sustenance and their thirst. They're thinking, we're ready to go in with this thing. We're going to dash in on it. And they won't lie down and drink, because they might turn up or something. They'll just scoop up some water in their hands or something and take a drink and go on. Those are your men. 300. Let the others go. I've only those who are a whole set of their beings. We're with you, we'll go right with this thing, whatever God shows we'll do, even if we're appeared to be the ones who will die, because they won't die because they believe God. So there came the third one. The next series in which they were brought down after 300 men who did mean business and were ready for action. Now once more, now they got, and now they are back in the valley, over the hills. They're in a series of hills, overlooking this vast mass spread out in this valley, with their camels and so on. I suppose pretty casual, because they took it for granted that they wouldn't have to do much to knock the Israelites out, I presume. Not quite so, as we see in a moment, but perhaps the majority had that idea. Now once again, you get this cautious man who has human fear, and he knows what to do. What should he do? What do you do? 300 unarmed men with 135,000 behind you down there waiting to slay you. What do you do? The Lord has said now to Gideon, verse 7, by the 300 men that left will I save you, and deliver Midianites into thine hand, and all rest go. And so he said, now they took victuals in their hand. It turned out they had pitchers. Whether because they put their food, like an African would, in a kind of pot they carry with them, or whether that means they had a pitcher of water as well as the food. And all they had was trumpets in one hand, and this food is presumably a pitcher with food in it, in the other hand. All they had, not a soul among them. And this is all they had with them. And the rest went. And there he says, there, look, there's the host of Gideon down in the valley. And so, quite naturally, what next? There's no sign he knew what. What next? And what can I do? And another guidance came. Again, as it were to meet fear, he said, God said, here Gideon, go down at night, in the early part of the night, outside the host, and listen to them. Catch something they're saying. Get on the edges of this great, probably casual mass, chattering together in their tents, where form their tents took in those days. Go right here. And so it said he took his servant, Shura, went down the hill, and there was some tent, some people, and there he heard a conversation, a remarkable conversation. Near as you can guess, like Rahab in Jericho. He says, one of these men, these Amalekites, these heathen, these men, they're like grasshoppers, it says. They lay along, they lay along the valley. They're sleeping, I think, casual, sleeping, like grasshoppers of multitude. And their camels outnumbered. As by the sand by the sea, it's side by multitude. They look like, to Gideon, a great crowd. Sleeping, night come. And when he came down, he listened, here was a man. He said, I've just had a dream. And in his dream, a great big cake of barley bread. That means a great big thing, like kind of almost a big thing, like you make in those days, not just a cake as we call it, a big thing rolled down. He says, this great thing came rolling down on us, what he called tumbling. It tumbled. It didn't come down, didn't come meaning to come down, it just rolled down. It wasn't man's action, it just rolled down. That's a more important word, I think, to Gideon. It came rolling down, it hit on the tents, and the tent collapsed. Presumably the people did. This is my dream. And this remarkable man showing that there's believers right among the heathen all the time. There are more in heaven than we know of. this man, this Midianite, said, I'll tell you what that means. He knew of Gideon. He'd evidently heard the word of the Lord. He heard Gideon probably made him boast of the Lord. And they destroyed the temple of Baal. And this man significantly knew this is the living God. He went back to Moses and so on in his mind, I don't know. And he said, all people know it too. Faith does do something. And this was a living faith. People that relate themselves to living faith. And this man did. He said, I'll tell you what that was. He said, that's nothing less than the sword of Gideon, a man of Joash, a man of Israel, for into his hand God hath delivered Midianite and all the host. Isn't that something? This soldier, like Rahab in Jericho, says, I know this is God. I know it's God. And this man of God, it's his sword, and God delivered the Midianites in this man's hand. Somehow he knew it. So whether Gideon had made that public boast, and God's going to smite the Midianites by me, I don't know. It sounds like it. And this came back to him from the house. Oh, what Gideon did? He worshipped. He worshipped. Oh, he says, this is God. So he forgot the host, he forgot what to do, he forgot, but he was his face. It says, as Gideon heard telling of the dream, etc., he worshipped. Joshua worshipped. When he'd been plotting around Jericho, what should he do as a military man, and serve the Lord, the captain of the Lord came, he worshipped. And there, in that God speaks to you. You're free now, you're not plotting. Your worship is God's in me. And as you do that, something comes to you, which is God. And this is what came to him. And I think it's quite obvious at that time. I think he saw, at that moment, don't do what you have got. You've got swords. Don't dash in and cut. We haven't got a sword to fight with. You have got trumpets. And trumpets can make a noise. And somewhere it occurred to him, doesn't say so, they had torches of some kind with them, or could make them. And you've got pitchers. What we can do, we can shout the word. And he saw the trick. Presumably when he was worshipping, he saw the trick. This is it. It's night. And it says they waited till the guard was changing. So we get a fresh, nervous guard taking on. They were just come to this camp and they were changing guards. And the guards going to be there. He said, he got his people together, must be pretty sharp the same night. Because they must have got their torches ready. They said, we'll divide into 3 companies. You go on that hill there, I'll go here, and we'll go here. And you all have trumpets. Apparently they all carried trumpets in those days. It's the one weapon they had. Big trumpets. Like going round Jericho, they blew the trumpets. And you have your sword, you have your trumpet in one hand, and you have your pitcher. Inside the pitcher, you put a lighted torch. Now it says, we won't do a thing tumbling down. We won't do a thing, but something will tumble down and shock them into flight. We won't go down. We'll stand where we are. But we'll stand here. When I give you the signal, when I blow with my trumpet, you all make one great big blowing of your trumpets. 300 of you all round the tent. And you show your lights, they'll say they've got us this time. Of course, they're terrified heathen. There are people like that had no thing. And that's all they did. That's all they did. And Gideon, 300 men came out outside of the camp in the beginning of the middle watch, outside. And they newly set the watch. And they blew the trumpets, and they break the pitchers that were in their hands, and the 3 companies blew the trumpets and break the pitchers and held the lamps in their left hands, and the trumpets in their right hand. They cried, the sword, not the sword of Gideon. That man said the sword of Gideon, sword of the Lord of Gideon. Gideon knew who he was. They shouted, sword of the Lord of Gideon. Now it looks as if that rumour had already gone out, because this man knew it. And it said, Rahab says, the people of Jericho are terrified. They know the Lord's with you. They're terrified. They aren't going to repent. They just want to get a way out. It looks as if there's God among the Midianites. They've heard this rumour, this living God who's done things in Moses and all this kind of business. This man's going to move. Is it moving now among us? Looks like it. Anyhow, when they heard that shout, the sword of the Lord Gideon, saw those lamps, heard the trumpets, they got terrified. They began to fight each other. And I think they, or just ran. Under Jehoshaphat, they fought each other. When they sang in Joshua, they heard the song, they got fighting among each other. But they had several different tribes fighting each other, got mixed up. It may not have been so. It says, that as they did that, they stood every man in his face round about. All the host ran and cried and fled. So the 300 did that. So this is what he caught. I think he caught the word tumbling. It wasn't going down to the face. It just rolled down. It just by its own impact rolled down. I think that's what Gideon caught. Don't go and do something you can't do. You haven't got swords. Just act like this. It's like it would be like a great big loaf of bread rolling on their tents. And they were terrified. Anyway. And so it was a fantastic situation. And then he followed them up, and then of course in the West they didn't know those days, they must have had swords or something in those days. They got fighting him, and they destroyed their leaders and so on. We didn't go into all that further detail here. But there wasn't one Israelite hurt. Not one Israelite involved. As one man, the whole tribe as one man. I'll strike them as one man, with one man they say. So it's a remarkable story when you look onto the inside of it, not story, history of the processes of faith, which start in conditions which God seemed out of sight. Things are wrong somewhere, and the individual gets concerned. It shouldn't be like this. God's person, why isn't God working? That's because God says, I'll do it through you, because you've got the power, because as we'd say, I'm in you. Do it, and you've got to fight and argue and so on, and then bit by bit somehow God shows you how to operate. And it's going to move in one way locally, and then something happens which startles, becomes public knowledge. He begins to go out, and other people catch on. Or we'd say what we want is not the running away, but coming to Christ, of course. So it is a remarkable, simple story of to teach it again. We don't do a thing, God does it. All we do is mighty little, walking on Jericho, blowing trumpets, shouting, the Lord's given you the city, down went the walls. And standing here, blowing trumpets, showing silly, playing kids, showing torches and so on. God. So I'm only saying, as we know, it is a very simple life, isn't it? It's God does it. He does it by us. And he does things, work in us because us know he does it by us, and then we walk this carefree way. There's no sign that only Gideon knew what to do. He just did the next thing. And no indication, any idea where did he get this idea of torches and so silly and trumpets? Where did he get it from? He could have got trumpets from Jericho, maybe. Not torches. Where did he get it from? I think it suddenly occurred to him in his mind. He didn't try and do a thing. He said, let's go and fight them. He hadn't got swords. As we knew they were swords. Anyhow, they weren't using them. And it just, do the next thing. Rather like Jesus, how do you feed 5,000? Do the next thing. Use the 5 loaves. All right, use the 5 loaves. What you got? All right. I'll expand 5 loaves to feed 5,000. All right. You've got no fish. You've got nets in. Now use your nets then. Put your nets in. You get the fishes. So God, we're relaxed. We just do the next thing of what we got. Out of what we got comes the harvest. And so it must occur to him, well, at least we can do that. At least we can... That soldier said, it's the sword of Gideon, and Lord's with us. All right, I can say that. I can say the sword of the Lord Gideon. We can make a shout. And we can plug trumpets. We catch a time at night when the people are nervous and new God. And anyhow, there were a crowd of people and they were relaxed and sort of sleeping. And you can see it. They did it, and enormous risk, and off the whole crowd fled for their lives, and then they pursued them, and the other tribes came in and took them prisoners, as they did in those days.